Mike and I were mere acquaintances, not even close enough to be considered friends or buddies. Our paths crossed by sheer chance when I came to his aid one fateful day. Such incidents happen sometimes, unexpected and unforeseen. Mike's car had broken down in the middle of the suburbs, and as if that wasn't unfortunate enough, his phone battery had died, leaving him stranded and helpless. Desperately, he waved his arms, trying to flag down any passing vehicle for assistance. But to his dismay, car after car sped by, their drivers either too preoccupied or unwilling to stop and lend a helping hand. It seemed as though no one cared about his plight until I happened upon the scene and decided to pull over. With a bit of effort and some makeshift ingenuity, we managed to hook up his car to mine using a sturdy tow rope, commonly referred to as a tie in such situations. I proceeded to tow his disabled vehicle all the way back to his residence, a considerable distance that required patience and careful maneuvering. Upon reaching his home, Mike gratefully took down my phone number and made a heartfelt promise to express his gratitude properly, straight from the heart, as he put it. True to his word, Mike followed through on his promise without delay. A mere week had passed when he reached out to me, extending an invitation to join him at a quaint and cozy restaurant. It was only later that I discovered this charming establishment was, in fact, owned by Mike himself. The evening turned out to be an exceptionally pleasant experience. We indulged in the finest cognac, savoring its rich flavors, while the culinary delights placed before us were nothing short of exquisite. As the night wore on, our conversation delved into the depths of life, touching upon various topics and experiences. When Mike learned that I owned a couple of car repair shops, he enthusiastically declared that he would entrust his vehicle's maintenance and repairs to my capable hands, and even go as far as recommending my services to his circle of friends. And so, our acquaintanceship began to take shape. We would meet occasionally, often when Mike brought his car in for routine diagnostics or necessary upkeep. Then one day, I received a call from Mike, inviting me to celebrate his birthday with him. Naturally, the festivities were to be held at his cherished restaurant. I readily accepted the invitation, especially considering that my wife had recently embarked on a week-long business trip. Such occasions were a rarity in the past, but 2 years ago she had received a well-deserved promotion at work, which unfortunately meant that the poor dear had to travel more frequently. The most frustrating aspect of these trips was their spontaneous nature, making it nearly impossible to plan ahead. Sometimes, everything would seem perfectly normal in the morning, only for my wife to call me at lunchtime, informing me that she would be leaving either that very evening or the following morning. However, these trips did have a silver lining. Upon her return, our relationship and intimate life would experience a revitalizing spark. Our bond was already tender and loving, but the time apart seemed to infuse it with an added thrill. We found ourselves yearning to hold hands, whisper words of love and affection, and engage in all sorts of silly romantic gestures. The only downside was that the trips were becoming either more frequent or longer in duration. Whereas she used to travel once every 1.5 to 2 months, now she could be away twice a month or for periods stretching up to 2 weeks at a time. But let's return to the story at hand. On the day of the celebration, Mike mentioned that he would be introducing me to his special someone. He gushed about her, claiming that he had never encountered a more beautiful woman in the world. However, there was one complication. She was married. Mike described her husband as a complete failure as a man. Apparently, they hadn't been intimate for an extended period, and the husband had even resorted to drinking and had once attempted to raise his hand against her, the despicable scoundrel. The couple had no children, as the man was said to be incurably ill. Despite all this, Mike's beloved struggled to muster the courage to leave her husband, expressing deep pity for him. Nevertheless, Mike was determined to persuade her, as they were deeply in love. Moreover, his sweetheart, whom he referred to as Stacy, had promised to bear his child, a son. I even joked about the coincidence, mentioning that my wife's name was also Stacy. Stacy made her entrance 40 minutes after the celebration had commenced. As she walked in, my heart plummeted to the depths of my being. Mike's beloved, as you may have already surmised, was none other than my own cherished wife. The stunning yellow dress she wore, which happened to be her favorite color, accentuated her breathtaking figure to perfection. Her makeup was subtle, and her high-heeled shoes added an extra touch of elegance. She was a vision of true beauty. It seemed apparent that she had decided to make a public appearance with her lover for the first time, as Mike wasted no time in introducing her to his closest friends and colleagues in the restaurant industry. Discreetly, I excused myself and retreated to the bathroom. Bitterness and resentment burned within me. The words she had used to describe me to her lover, portraying me in such a negative light, cut deep. Moreover, the fact that we had two beautiful children together, a son and a daughter, made the situation all the more incomprehensible to me. For the next hour, I managed to successfully avoid encountering the birthday celebrant and his chosen companion. I observed from a distance as my wife reveled in the festivities, graciously accepting compliments from other men and showering Mike with affection. Eventually, I rose from my seat and proposed a toast, something along the lines of, "To the host and hostess of the celebration." I witnessed my wife's complexion rapidly shift from a deep red to a ghostly pale. In a swift motion, she leapt up from the table and dashed out of the restaurant at full speed, her high heels clicking furiously against the floor. Mike immediately chased after her. What transpired next remains a mystery to me, as I made my exit through the kitchen and the back room. I can't quite explain my decision to conceal myself. Nonetheless, I found my way back home, retrieved a bottle of Finnish vodka, settled into the kitchen, and waited. 2 hours later, my wife returned, her makeup completely removed and dressed as if for a business trip. We never managed to have a proper conversation about the incident, neither that day nor in the days that followed. My wife trailed me incessantly, as if tethered to me, her tears flowing and her voice repeating a relentless mantra of, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." The situation became so unbearable that I was compelled to vacate our shared home. I couldn't bear to see my wife in such a state, to hear her unending apologies and witness her uncontrollable sobbing. She persistently tried to contact me, forcing me to initially switch off my phone and eventually change my number altogether. I initiated divorce proceedings, informing my wife of my decision through her mother. During the court hearings, she wept and vehemently opposed the divorce. In an act of fairness, I voluntarily divided all our assets equally: the business, the apartment, and any jointly acquired property. Unsurprisingly, our compassionate legal system granted custody of the children to their mother. To her credit, she has not hindered my visits with them. The reasons behind her actions remain a mystery to me, and quite frankly, I have no desire to uncover them. More than a year has passed, and my wife, my ex-wife, a term I still struggle to accept, continues to reach out, attempting to engage with me as if nothing has changed. Whenever a mutual acquaintance tries to broach the subject of her, I politely request that they refrain from discussing the matter. The only remnants of my former life that hold any significance to me are my children. In the realm of law, those who betray their country face the ultimate punishment, the death penalty. However, infidelity within a relationship bears no consequences for the offending party. It is the betrayed and the innocent children who suffer the most. The children, in particular, endure the greatest hardship. They bear no fault for the selfish desires of one parent. I believe this notion extends to the concept of personal space within relationships, a notion whose origins and purposes remain unclear, conceived by unknown individuals for reasons that elude me.